So this is part 870 something to this because it's so massive for, people to put this together because they haven't, and now that I have the keys to show you guys how to put it together to prove our history has been older and longer, and it's definitely not what they have told us. And so the two files that I have, if you guys use my Google Drive or, when you log into yours and you go to your Gmail account, basically this is what's going to show up. There's nothing harmful in this. They're covered. Um, so you can go through and look and see what I have. Like I said, this was the first one that I did, and the second one is this one that I've been working on. And so this one's a little bit better detailed into Colorado's for me to actually prove it because just with Pueblo alone, it's not possible because people just don't see it. So you need to put all of this together for everybody to understand it. One of the things is you have to look at the timeline for Colorado. So basically, 1870, they didn't get anything until then is when they got the railroad, and they weren't doing anything until they got the railroad. So if we click into Denver, and some of this, I try to do it a little bit different this time, is kind of point out some stuff like industry, like what would be included in industry and stuff. And so mining it was one of the hugest industries for Colorado, and I'm going to show you the mineral. I guess it'd be Mineral Palace. Why is it not in here? All right, so what I want to tie this in with is the Mineral Palace was actually part of the Chicago World Fair. And like I said, when you look at the old photographs and history, I mean, you could see there is nothing behind this. When they built this palace, it was supposed to be in 1893, or at least around there, 1889, 1890, to be able to be a part of the World's Fair in 1893. And so what they did is they shipped this Silver Queen that came from Aspen. I guess it was solid silver, and they shipped it to the World's Fair, and then like I said, they divided and conquered, and this thing just magically disappeared. So imagine how much silver that was that just magically disappeared. Supposedly it was on loan from Aspen, but that's who knows what kind of schemes that they did. So, and then to tie it in with Denver, the mining expedition that they have up there. So you have to think when Denver got the railroad in 1870, within 12 years, they built this massive, just one of many of these buildings that they built. I mean, it's absolutely it's crazy when you think about it, and you start putting it together. So let's go down and let me see if I can find it in the original photographs instead of the one that they just the one I showed you where it was the picture. And so that's how they used to do, their news and history was, they drew everything out and then they went to, photographs. So there's plenty of history. It's just been destroyed and lost purposely on I mean, there's no way to explain the architecture, the building, the tree growth, all of it, and the time frame that they had with all the different buildings and stuff that came and gone. And I'll keep going through this, but let me show you guys Chicago World Fairs. I want to go through that, and I'm going to show you tree growth and stuff. Let's see, it's under national. Sorry. And everything I've collected in here, is for you guys to look and verify, what I'm telling you, and to give proof, evidence of how do I prove this to the world, that they have definitely hidden time and they have done something to the United States because it's definitely not the way it used to be. And whatever happened to us, we were either conquered or I mean, there's so many theories and explanations that you could go through. It's not even funny. And so here, the National Mining exhibit that they had in Denver that was supposedly was built in 1882. And when you look at this, you cannot believe the grand scale of all of it. And when you look at this architect and this design and stuff, and you start going to world fairs and stuff, and this is actually looks like it's when it's being built. And see, that's the other, like I said, the weird thing with all of these pictures that I look at, nothing but like dirt. So I mean, it looks like somebody went through and graded this, but you can imagine, the time and effort I would have took with a horse And, on this one, you can see construction. If you download these pictures or go directly to, Denver Library, you have a better viewing of it. There's another picture of it. I mean, this was a massive, massive building, I mean, how did they go from basically showing up in a wagon and then in a couple of years basically build stuff like this? And this is just one of many buildings. And so, like I said, you have to go through a history and you have to start looking and placing it together. And so I'm going to go through this now, but I'm going to use my pictures because they're a lot easier to deal with. But tree growth, 10 to 40 years. And so this tree was down on Union Street in Pueblo, Colorado. So this thing was 88 feet tall, 29 feet in circumference, and 88 feet tall, and lived 388 years, or I think it's 388 years. But they cut it down in 1883, supposedly. But I'm going to show you, like, even this photograph's been doctored. There's a building, for whatever reason, is lightened up in this photograph, but I figured out which building that is in later photographs. So they doctored these photographs. But you see the guy standing here. I mean, it's absolutely massive. All right, so let's go into the Chicago World Fairs. Like I promised, I've been babbling on for probably about 10 minutes of nonstop. So let's continue the I don't know how to tell somebody to look at this building and realize that this is not temporary. And the massive amount that it would take to even do this temporary. Just think about the time, and I'm going to show you construction. But these photographs I got off the Denver Library. And all of these buildings, this one I can't make out, but they all had inscriptions on them. And if you go to the front, like the one where it says, "You shall know the truth and you shall be free," that was on the entrance of this. There's another picture of it, and it's like I said, they doctored these photographs. So the rest of these photographs have this weird, yeah. But you have to understand what it would take to do all of the electrical, because here's a light pole, and look at the size of it, to install all of this temporary, do all the electrical wiring, do all of the statues. Yeah, it's easy to fool us when we don't know what we need to look for. And I'm telling you, this is so beautiful that they would have an inscription of God and Jesus on our buildings. And this one, if you read through it, about the pioneers and the liberty and the freedom and the toleration of other religions. But here's another photograph, and you can see tree growth in here. This has been here for a long time, at least 10 years. Because temporarily, they would have had to come in and put all these trees in and then tear them all out. And then look at the lighting that they had. So imagine the light switch that they had. And it's not one big light switch. As an electrician, you're going to have like a multiple. Did they use relays, or how did they wire all this in? And I'm telling you the calculations on this to make sure. And where did they get all the wire from? This is in 1893. And in 1880 is when they started doing light bulbs. That's 13 years, 10 years. Wow, they must have put those in when they first invented the light bulb and knew that it was going to work. There's another picture of it, and this one you can see the construction in the background. Because I was always wondering how they built these massive stone projects. And that's what they did, is they built an outer shell of wood to house it and be able to build these magnificent buildings. And like I said, look at the tree growth. I wish these were better. But I can tell you right now, we had the technology to make good photographs. Why do we not have those pictures? And why did they doctor so many pictures? On a historical. Here's another one showing the buildings. Now, I don't know about you, but that really does not look like plaster to me. Wish I knew what that said. But like I said, all the buildings had inscription on them. Light poles. This is the one building that they had at the State Fair for Colorado. Notice the design, the two towers. There's another picture. I mean, these were massive, massive structures. And to think that cavemen basically built this is what you're trying to tell me. I mean, that's honestly what you're really trying to tell me is caveman built this. Let me see if I can find that photograph again. That one makes me laugh. Because when I think about it, supposedly this is Denver of that time. And think about all the wagons and horses and ox and everything that they'd have to use. They didn't have any machinery, they didn't have any power tools. Another building, just fascinating. I mean, the architecture, the structure, and I mean, seriously, I can see that these are mostly flagpoles. But what is with, the spike columns? I mean, just absolutely beautiful. And I mean, look at two identical flag poles. And I'm assuming that's probably the Liberty Bell. The exhibition building. The engineering alone, I can't get how nobody is putting this together. Expedition building again. Look at all the tree growth. And you can see them doing the construction in the back. So when was this photograph taken? Because they said they didn't open the World's Fair till it was completed. And we can see here that that's not the case. There's another photograph of it. Yeah, temporary my ass. I'm calling out everybody in the world right now. Every one of you motherfuckers that know about this, you better come clean. Because its truth is coming out. It's gonna come out. Just unbelievable what they built. And look at the tree growth again. Here's the one that gets me. If you cannot understand how retarded that story is, that this was all temporary, built in the middle of the night, and you look at this, you have to be the special ed child of the class. I mean, because absolutely look at this. And let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rows of stars. Latest flag, I'm assuming. It's just, yeah, I mean, seriously, go through and think about what is being presented here. And you can see them still building on the back, and this is fully opened. This is not temporary. God, these guys have destroyed so much shit. I hope to God we find every one of these motherfuckers and hang them. Because they have taken so much from us. Anyone tells you this is temporary is higher than a kite. Place of fine arts. Look at all the lighting and everything. 1893. 1882 is actually when they first started making production of light bulbs. So how did they already get manufacturing with wire, light poles, and all of that done within 12 years? And to feed the whole entire country at once. Because I've proven in 1890 all of Colorado had electricity. Transportation building. Just beautiful architecture. Women's building. I don't understand that why would if you're so misogynist back then, why would you name the building, or unless this is the bathroom for the women? I mean, that would explain it. At least these guys were courteous and was like, Jesus, women take forever, so we'll give them the biggest building with the bathrooms. So that's the end of this slideshow. Like I said, when you start putting this together, it is so massive, but you can see and start to pick through the pieces and go through it. Denver, Colorado streets and stuff. Laramie, that's the one. I got a file on it that you can go into, and it'll give you all the streets and stuff. And then back in time. So, like I said, there's nothing in here trying to be harmful towards anybody, but you have to understand what they built and realize. I mean, look at the craftsmanship at all of this. Hand, all done by hand. And another one. This building was torn down in 1943. So I mean, it basically didn't. It made it what 50 years, and then they tore it all down. Massive parks that they built in Pueblo, Colorado, of all places. And here's one of the photographs before it looks like it gets demolished, and then you can see that this is the early 1920s. I have another one just before. Let's see if it's in here. And I apologize because man, it's been really hard to load this stuff. So, and then the fire hydrant, I showed you that too. Here's another picture of it. I mean, they built this massive park in the middle of Denver, or middle of Pueblo. With everything else, I'm telling you, you can't make this story up. Well, they did, and we all bought and believed it. As we didn't have the information like we do today. Each one of us was stuck in our small little world. Unless we traveled the world and seen all this, how would you have put this together 100 years ago? You wouldn't have been able to. You would have done what they told you to do.